I think the resiliency that a lot of mothers have is because there is a way that you fight through that and how you walk through that journey. And the
Yeah.
fire that you do experience is shaping you and designing you into a more compassionate, empathetic, loving individual.
Step right up, folks. You're now entering It's a Circus, where parenting isn't always a show stopping act, but it's certainly entertaining. I'm your host, Elsa, here to prove that no one really knows what they're doing, and that's perfectly fine. Let's have some real conversations, peel back the layers, and remind you that you're never alone in the madness. Let's get the show rolling. I am so excited for this next guest that I have on. She is one of the first people I thought of to get on this podcast, and for lots of reasons, which you'll find out. What's really hilarious is we've had to basically record this 3 different times because every time we got together, it was like something wasn't working or whatnot. And we started joking that it was just our energy together, but it's no joke. The conversation is fantastic, and all of our electronics couldn't even handle us. It was so great. So you shouldn't really notice it in the podcast, but that is the behind the scenes truth that happened. So let me just get into her bio. Courtney is a mom of 2, entrepreneur and advocate who believes in finding strength and joy through life's messiest seasons. This month, she's celebrating her 10-year anniversary at Synchrony Financial, where she leads with creativity and heart. She founded Speak Cosmetics, a beauty brand born from her own healing journey, which is currently paused but not closed, making space for her deepening passion for matrescence, motherhood, and whole person wellness. Courtney is dedicated to helping mothers understand and honor what truly regulates their nervous systems, believing that a well-supported mom can change the world. I couldn't believe that more. Let's get into it. Hello, Courtney. Welcome to It's a Circus podcast. I'm so excited you're here. Can you give us quickly your mama stats? So your kiddos, how old are they? How long have you been a mom for?
Absolutely. And thank you for creating this space. And I want to
Yes.
acknowledge you. I know you are technically interviewing me, but just wanted to give you a moment in this and acknowledge creation of this conversation. So thank you for doing that.
Thanks, babe.
Yes.
I appreciate it. Yes. And I know that we've been trying to connect for ever. And whenever we do, I mean, it is just
Yes.
kindred spirit,
100%.
soul connection. I can't even
Yes.
handle everything.
So my journey to motherhood.
So, okay.
Yeah,
Yes. Kiddo. Yes, please. Let's go.
I feel like I knew I wanted to be a mom, but I didn't think that it was real, like tangible, for a really long time. And I think
Mm-hmm.
part of that is
Mm-hmm.
my childhood and navigating the space of growing up with foster brothers and sisters, my sister who had children that I took care of and was literally, they called me Sister Aunt Mom. So I played a role as a mother at a very, like, 12
Oh,
and
man.
14 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I
Mm-hmm.
grew into adulthood, I'll come back to that because I'll tell you about my boys first. So I have a now 5-year-old.
Okay.
Um, yeah, you'll have to stay with me in my journey of thought because this is how my brain works. Bing, 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 bing.
We're here for it. We are so
So
here
my
for
son's
it.
birthday is today. My youngest, who is 5 today, it's his birthday. And his name is
Happy
Leo. And
birthday.
then Logan is 6.5. He'll be 7 in September. And he's going on 13 in his head and body. And then I have a stepson who is
Yeah.
15. He'll be 16 in June. So boy, mom, all the way. Lots of boys. Lots of testosterone in my household. Even my dog is a boy.
I mean, I'm right there with you. I'm right there. Even my cat is a boy.
I know.
So, you know,
Next dog we get
we're just meant to be queens. That's
maybe
just
is
like what I say.
some girl energy. That's true. I have definitely embraced the queen aspect of,
Yeah.
all right, here I am. Um,
Here's your representation
yes,
of
of
all the
all
things.
the estrogen or progesterone in our household. As far as the
Mm-hmm.
motherhood journey, so I shared a little bit about my upbringing and why I felt like it
Yes.
was a very far distant. I never thought I was going to get married and have kids right away. I knew that was not the case. I did get married very early. So my first husband, I got married at 19, so extremely young, and
Mm-hmm.
wanted to have fun and play and have a career and finish my master's. And so I did all of that in my 20s. And when we got divorced, I always felt like, I knew I wanted to have children. I just didn't know if it was going to be with him. And that was a good indication of this is
Yeah.
not my partner for life. And we
Sure.
divorced pretty amicably. So that was a good thing. We were together for 11 years, which is a long time, but we grew up together. And then my second husband,
Right.
which you know a little bit about that story in terms of
Mm-hmm.
the relationship I
Mm-hmm.
had with him, which was a complete, drastic, utter change from my first husband. And I waited 5.5 years until I got remarried. So there was a long time in between me, my first marriage, and that particular marriage. And yeah, he was a extremely abusive man, and we can talk about that uh, deeper in a
Yeah.
minute. But we actually got
Mm-hmm.
pregnant, and I was pregnant, and I have not shared this too much with some people, but yeah, I had a miscarriage with him, and I know, yeah, it
Oh.
was. I know. First of all, I'm grateful that I didn't have to bring a child into the world with him. And I'm also,
Wow.
it was extremely painful. And I was at a stress level of 20.
Oh.
And there was so much
Mm-hmm.
shame in two different facets of when I went through that miscarriage of like me as I'm not good enough to have a child, but also the
Right.
stress of
Right.
just physiologically what's happening hormonally with your body, uh, and then the abuse that was occurring from a mental standpoint at the time. It was horrible, but that I had named the baby. I wasn't very far along. Like I found out really early that I was pregnant, and
Mm-hmm.
then when I had the miscarriage, I was probably about 10 weeks along. So it was pretty early.
Oh, wow.
And
Mm-hmm.
after we got divorced, which the judge actually granted an annulment with my second husband, even though we were married for almost a year, which was crazy. But
Wow. Oh
he
my
was an amazing
gosh.
judge. And he was like,
Yes.
I don't want you to have this on your record as an actual marriage because it wasn't. And I'm going to annul this marriage for you. So I was
Wow.
like, thank you. That was so thoughtful.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, that
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
And then when I met my now husband, I was 36 at the time I met him, and we
Mm-hmm.
had a fast trajectory into getting pregnant and having a baby. And initially, when we first started talking and interacting, we both knew that was the path that I was on. I had actually, Elsa, I don't even know if I shared this with you. I had gone to the doctor and gotten my
Mm-mm.
ovaries flushed and was ready to actually do um, IUI, like inseminating
Okay.
myself
Yep.
with someone that I chose, um, that I wouldn't actually know, and getting
Oh my
pregnant on my
gosh.
own because I just had
Right.
found so many
Wow.
friends and people that I knew that were struggling with infertility, and I was just so scared that if I waited too long, um, that was not going to be
Right.
something that I could do. But my body,
Mm-hmm.
it was as if my body. What's wild is I wasn't even on birth control with my first husband the whole time and never got pregnant. And then my second husband got pregnant, had the
Wow.
miscarriage, and then with Ben, was not on anything birth control, but my body was like, "You're ready," and so I got pregnant really quick. and 6 months
Wow.
after we met. And when that when that happened, it was like, all right, well, here we go. And then here we are. So yeah, he's an amazing partner and definitely the
Oh
one I was meant
my
to have kids with.
gosh.
And I'm just so grateful for that.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, Courtney.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. What an incredible story to get you to the point to be a mother. And I want to touch on a few things. For the miscarriage, I want to
Yeah.
say thank you for sharing because I don't think we talk a lot about it. And there's so many women that go through that part of getting to actually get a baby out into the world. It feels
Yeah.
very common statistically, like there
Yeah.
are facts and research that show that it is very
100%.
common and we just don't talk about it. So you chose to name the baby, and can you just talk about that piece and what that did for you and why that was
Yeah.
important for you?
I It was with my ex. We actually named him. We like thought
Right.
he was going to be a boy, and again, didn't know if it was going to be a boy or a girl, but we just were like,
Mm-hmm.
if it's a boy, I feel like it's a boy, and his name's going to be Elliot.
Mm-hmm.
And we just were in that frame of having that conversation and dreaming, and that was, that's the
Mm-hmm.
thing about the abusive relationship is I had amazing times with him and like the dreaming, wonderful high state of
Mm-hmm.
emotional bonding of that. And then at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, um, literally the same day of having that dream, having that discussion, I remember where I was. I remember talking about that because then within hours of that having that conversation, he was then talking about he couldn't imagine having a child with me and having a baby, and I'm going to be explicit here, having a baby come out of my vagina that has had
Mm-hmm.
so many other men in, and like went down this path of a slut for a mother, and I can't believe this, we're going to bring this child into this world. What am I going to tell him? How am I going to explain to him who you are? And yeah, it was just like this. That was my daily life, was just the pendulum swinging back and forth of
Oh
like
my gosh,
everything's
Courtney.
great and amazing and we're in this bubble of love, and then complete, utter, disgusting, toxic, horrible behavior and interaction with him at the same time. So when I had a miscarriage and had that physical experience, he I remember
Right.
being in the doctor's office with him and him being so loving and kind and like rubbing my arm, and I was crying, and he didn't say a
Mm-hmm.
word, and it was just in this like dark evil state of, he was just angry, and it was like angry at me for having this occur, and
Mm-hmm.
for like, this is your fault that you're having a miscarriage.
Oh my
and
gosh. Mm-hmm.
And that, I think any woman who has had a miscarriage before has that thought in their head of
Mm-hmm.
they're to blame, which is by far the
Mm-hmm.
opposite, just from a physiological standpoint of what's happening. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not your fault
Right.
that you have a miscarriage, or,
Right.
you know, I also
Right.
feel like there wasn't a normal grieving process. If I were to have a miscarriage with Ben and what that would look
Mm-hmm.
like, it would be totally different on how I handled it and how I grieved and how I processed it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It was
Mm-hmm.
a horrible, horrible feeling. I was with Bare Minerals at the time, and I had to train and teach a class like
Oh
the
man.
following day, and I did. And I remember
Oh my
calling
gosh.
my leader at the
Oh
time,
my
and she's
god.
like, if you feel like you can't, um, then let me know. And I shouldn't have, but I did, just to disconnect and
Mm-hmm.
not think about it so I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be wallowing in what I was feeling, which is
Mm-hmm.
not the appropriate steps either. So it wasn't a healthy grieving process at all. And I wish I could, and I have talked to my younger self and loved and um, protected her,
Mm-hmm.
because it was not a safe space.
No, not at all. And it's so hard because internally you're already going through that dialogue. So then to hear it externally
Yeah,
very unfairly and not
100%.
true at all, I mean, that has to be really hard. And two, when that happens, you still
Yeah,
have hormones going through you. So you still are not quite
right.
yourself. You're still, it takes a while to
Hmm.
move through that. So, oh my gosh, that
Yeah,
is
there weren't many people
wow.
who knew
That is
that
really hard.
and knew that I was even ever pregnant. And yeah, I think there was this unnecessary
Mhm.
amount of shame for reasons that were
Mhm.
not mine to live in, and I didn't need to own.
No. 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 Not at all. I'd like to move through to your two boys and your
Yes.
stepson now and what that was like. Because how far apart are
They're
your
19 months apart.
the two
So
little
pretty,
ones?
I had two under
Okay.
two for a little while. So that was fun. And I
Hmm.
know,
Yep.
you're navigating a similar similar space. How old are your boys
Yes.
apart?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
14 months apart.
So similar-ish.
So
Yes.
closer to a year. And then, yes. Yes. I mean, please. Any two under two. I mean, that is such a vibe.
It's a wild ride.
So
Meet
you
Ben.
meet
He has a
Ben.
son.
You you have a you have the babies.
I will talk
Yes.
about
Okay.
that
Go
as
go
a
go.
step parent for a while. And as someone who is dating someone who has a child, I think in
Hmm.
normal circumstances, what might look
Hmm.
healthy or what should be the healthy path, a lot of times is not meeting the
Hmm.
child for some time until you are sure as a couple that
Hmm.
you're going to be in a space that's going to stay in place for that child.
Hmm.
Our path looked a little different and we
Hmm.
didn't approach it that way because he lives in Utah during the school year and he came and still does stay with us and stay with Ben during the summers and during holidays. And so his time
Okay.
with him is different. And we met in May, the end of May,
Hmm.
like right before summer started. And so it was like, well, my son's here, I
Hmm.
have my son. So that normal dating, like,
Hmm.
I'm going to have somebody watch him was not an option for him, nor would I have asked him to do that because he doesn't have the time with them. So yeah, I met his son really early and very
Right.
quickly. Um, but I felt like I knew I had done a lot of work before I started dating Ben and still was in the work from a cognitive
Yeah.
behavior therapy standpoint and trusted my instinct with Ben,
Hmm.
which took a long time to build back up from a trust standpoint. That we were going to
I'm sure.
be together forever. Like I knew that. I just knew and I didn't
Yeah.
feel uncomfortable meeting his son. So I was excited to meet him. He was 7 at the time, which is crazy to think about because that's almost as old as Logan is now today. So yeah, he
Oh
was just
my
a little boy
goodness.
and who I could be for him during that first summer, I'm so grateful for because it was a summer, it was just me and him before I had children. And I'm glad I had
Hmm.
time to start to develop a
Hmm.
relationship. And we got really close and we spent so much time together and had a blast together. And I really grew such attachment, strong
Oh,
feelings toward him during that first initial summer together. And I think honestly, Ben seeing me in how I interacted with him really allowed him to feel confident of like, yes, I want you to have my children. You know, he was, I don't think
right.
he said
Right.
those exact words, but
Oh.
now looking back, he has talked about that. So then when we
Right.
got pregnant and it was kind of a shock and unplanned and when we were not even engaged at the time and so it was not the normal, what is normal, but not the normal trajectory of
Yeah.
you meet, you get married, you have kids, so forth. But no, we got engaged
Hmm.
and then decided 2 weeks later to get married, where we were gonna wait and have a big wedding, and we're like, I was pregnant, and I was like, no, I think I was 5 months, 4 or 5 months pregnant at the time. And so I was like, no, I don't want to wait. What am I thinking? No, let's just
Oh my
let's do
gosh.
this. So we got married, and then when we had Logan, it was just this explosion of so many things that I'm excited to talk about today. I wanted children so badly, and I think often women feel like
Mm-hmm.
when you have a child, A, you're going to know instinctively what to do. B, you're going to know
Yep.
instinctively, you're like prepared and you know it's going to be hard, or at least I did, because I knew helping my sister
Mm-hmm.
and my foster brothers and sisters, like what it took. It's
Sure.
hard, physically
Mm-hmm.
demanding. But the emotional and the physiological
Right.
changes that occurred within me, I was completely unprepared for and had no knowledge around. And no one really talked through it with
Wow.
me. It was just, this is going to be hard and your life's going to change.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like, all right,
Right.
well, get ready. And I was always have been hardworking, career driven, very
Mm-hmm. Yes.
the path of move forward, move up, move forward, move up pace of my life. And when that occurred, it was
Mm-hmm.
like, wait a minute,
Mm-hmm.
what do I want? What's really going to happen? How is this going to happen? I just didn't understand
Right.
how to process what I valued and what I thought was important prior to having kids.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I had to navigate all of that. And
Mm.
I've listened to a couple of your podcasts that you've had with other women, just very similar
Mm-hmm.
feelings. And we've all had
Mm-hmm.
different stories, but similar experiences in that,
Mm-hmm.
especially working moms, which, um,
Yes.
yeah, and going back, I had a generous time off maternity leave, so I was grateful for that. But going back with Logan looked very different than when I went back with Leo. When I went back with Logan, I was ready. Like I felt ready. I wanted to go back even sooner. I
Mm-hmm.
just was ready to be
Mm-hmm.
in the world again and not be in the bubble of just me and my
Right.
baby. And I felt
Right.
shameful and guilty for feeling that way, which is not something I should have felt. I should have allowed myself to feel that the way I was feeling and be okay with it, acknowledge that of like what I'm supposed to feel
Mm-hmm.
is not truly, you're not supposed to feel any sort of way. You just feel the way you feel. And
Right.
right.
There's no right or wrong.
So I went
Yeah.
back and then got pregnant again. So I was like, oh, wait. And so going
Mm-hmm.
back with Leo, it was harder in the sense of, all right, now when I go back to work, I'm now navigating another human life and their needs biologically and
Yes.
socially. And so learning how to navigate sense of self in the space of what's happening with me really disappeared. And at the time, I didn't really understand why or what that looked like. And I think you've talked about with other women of like their identity and the loss of identity is really not really, I don't believe that it's
Right.
a loss of identity. I like thinking about it as a new role that you play, or the way that you interact with the world looks different because you are different and you're different
Right.
physiologically, biologically. Becoming a
Yeah.
mom and the matrescence aspect of that really does restructure your brain, rewire your neurons, the way you interact with humans, things, your day, time, all changes. And so I just didn't know. And
Right.
having knowledge doesn't always make you choose differently, but I think it empowers you to feel differently.
Right. Oh, that is so powerful. And I think you're like literally like nailing the hammer in the head. I mean, hammering the nail in the head.
Yeah.
Whatever that sentence is. That is it is exactly it is exactly that. And I want to talk about, because our experiences then are similar. You are postpartum, but then you're pregnant. So you're pregnant and postpartum. Then you have second baby, and then you're like
in my mind, looking back, I'm probably
Yeah.
like double postpartum. So like whatever that
Right.
means, that happened. those feelings were real. Um, Without you knowing what you know today, what was your mindset and your, I don't know, I guess I would say coping mechanisms, or if you could verbalize in any way, what were
I
those
think
feelings
back
like?
on, I felt confused. I felt lost. I felt alone. I felt desperate. I felt crazy at times. I felt very
Yeah.
reactive. I felt angry. I felt
Yes.
emotional. I felt a lot of big feelings. And and I love to
Yes.
talk about that taking place in our brains for a minute, but before I get there, just that is how I was feeling. And as far as the skills that you have and coping, cognitively, I felt like I had skills based on what I went through, and going through therapy for 18 months doesn't prepare you from a mind body connection. So the disconnect of what I felt from my own body, which is, hey, normal because you're housing another human, and what that does
Right.
to your body,
Right.
you feel disconnected to yourself. So you trying to navigate the space of, well, how am I feeling? You don't know the answer because there are things that are taking place in your body. And so I, yes, those are all the feelings that I was feeling. And I think I'll tap into, if I were to go back to the Courtney at that time of knowing what I know now,
Yes.
and how I would navigate that space now, which I love you saying that, of like, if I ever had a third, but I'm not, is exactly how I feel. If I had a third, but I'm not, then I would do
Yeah.
so many things
You're right.
different. And part of it is just understanding what is taking place in the brain. And so I'll get nerdy for a second, if you'll just
Yes.
hang with me. So
Please.
I am
Yeah, I love
such
it.
a, the neurology, the neuropsychology, and the neurobiology things fascinate me. And I, learning about matrescence and learning about your prefrontal cortex and your amygdala. So your prefrontal cortex is all of your executive functioning, your task ability, things that you function into scheduling. That actually expands, but it restructures. So it's restructuring to task orient your brain to your child. It's like, what is the things that I need to get done for my child? You're not retasking your brain for yourself or your partner. It's all towards the child. And then your amygdala also changes. That's your body's response and how we respond to things. It's like the hot under the collar, you get heated up, and it's that initial, like, you're responding by reacting. You're not responding by sitting with that emotion
Right.
and wondering about it. No, you just react. So your amygdala restructures
Right.
in a way to respond to stimuli from your child. And you can't differentiate the stimuli that's happening for yourself or your partner. So all of that changes to literally change in response to your child.
Wow.
And your hippocampus, which is in the middle of your brain, which is your memory part of your brain, literally shrinks. And that is your relation to memory long term. So, like the mom brain fog or whatever, is a real thing, because it does
Yes.
actually,
Yes.
your expansion of your prefrontal cortex and your amygdala in ways to help grow and restructure, which is amazing. But it also does not allow you to take in
Amazing.
new information. So you can take in new information for your child, but not for
Right.
yourself. So knowing all of that, and just
Yeah.
having grace for, like, first of all, women are freaking amazing, and God made us so and designed us in a way that is incredible. And if we can just allow that to, like, live and praise and, like, rejoice and clap and celebrate, for a
Just,
second.
yes, just that alone. Just like sit there for a second.
It is
Yes,
amazing.
that
And that is
alone,
why
period.
mothers
It's
can
amazing.
do so many tasks and are so incredible because you have to take care of
Yeah.
yourself. But you're not wired to, so you have to
Hmm.
learn, and the skills that you can create and get resources around is, all right, well, now knowing that, what do I need to ask of my partner? Where do
Hmm.
I need to tap into my friends when it comes to biological needs for self? Like, how can I take care of myself when
Hmm.
I'm not getting that tap of like, hey, you're hungry. Hey, you're tired. Um, that's
Hmm.
not happening. So the
Hmm.
cues biologically don't take place. So you have
Right.
to literally either assign yourself alarms or task that to another individual because you
Hmm.
can't do that on your own. And then having the ability to
Wow.
respond to stimuli. So women often get labeled mothers. The angry part of the anger that I was feeling was really just
Yes.
a
Hmm.
overstimulated response because I think of the movie Everything. What is it? Everything, everyone, all at once. That
Oh,
is what's taking
yes.
place in your
Yes.
house. So it's all the things, all the
Right.
information,
Right.
because
Right.
the response systems, you're constantly scanning for threats. And so your fear is risen, your cortisol
Hmm.
rises, and all of these things biologically are taking
Hmm.
place for you to take care of your child and keep your child safe. And that's at no fault to yourself, but
Hmm.
it does put you in a position to where you are more reactive very quickly, and that can
Hmm.
come across as aggressive or angry, but it's really just about stimulation of what's happening around you. And so understanding that, I feel like I would tell
Wow.
myself, tune tune in to tune out. Like, how can I tune into myself and understand what's
Hmm.
happening in my body, and like
Hmm.
literally do body scans of like, where am I feeling things, and forcing myself to take the time to do that, whether it's a 10-second scan of like, all right, what am I feeling? Is my body
Hmm.
telling me something that I'm not addressing? So I'm not reacting in a way that comes across as
Hmm.
angry or emotional. And that's okay that I was, and I didn't know what I know
Oh
now.
man.
And
Yeah.
I had talked about this with my OBGYN, who was pregnant at the time. I've recently talked to her more about this. And she's like,
Oh wow.
I am learning and I'm going to start talking to my patients about this, Courtney. And I was like, yes, because we need to from a doctor standpoint, and we
Please.
talk about these things. So they won't get labeled as postpartum depression. That's not what
Right.
it always is. Sometimes it is, but
Yes.
sometimes it is just the
Right.
body's way of working through how we're designed to take care of another human being.
Right. Oh my gosh.
So sorry. Thank you for saying.
I have so many things to say. No, I love it. I have so many things to say. So I think it's so like, it feels so good when I came across that word, matrescence, which happened
Yeah.
after
Yes.
both babies. So I was not aware
Yes.
of it with the first one. And then I was aware of it with the second one. But I was aware of it from like
Mm.
a place of shame. And that's also so hard to adjust in your body because you're like, okay, I understand. Thank you for naming something. Thank you for explaining what I already know inside. And it feels good that there's a name for it. It feels good that I can say, like, oh,
Right.
like these are
Yes.
things that are happening to me. I think the other piece is hard because sometimes the world and society is like, well, okay, but are you
Yeah.
strong enough to get through this? Like, can you, like, that was kind of like the self
Yes.
punishment that I was giving myself, was just like, okay,
Yes.
here's all the stuff, but like, hey, you're you, like, you
Mm-hmm.
got this, like, get up, go, like, you can figure it out, like, go, like, instead of trusting the process,
Yeah.
leaning in on time, understanding or communicating, what some of those things are to maybe
Right.
people that don't know. And if we could only, and I know we talk about this, but it's like we take this time to prepare for birth. We take this time to prepare for baby. But what time are we taking to prepare ourselves for after all of these things
100%.
happen? Because yes, your baby is new and of course needs a lot of your support, but it's you that has to care for that child. It's you that are actually going through the process. Your baby is breathing and eating and pooping, but you've got to like really adjust to all those things. And so the fact that the mother is kind of on the back end of the entire system.
Backwards.
And then because of that, it's backwards. And then because of that, if you look at my experience, that's exactly what I was doing. Is I was like, oh, okay, well, good. Somebody's doing that research. Thanks. Feels okay. I can point to something that this is what I'm going through. But like, I've still got to like
navigate through
I gotta
it. Yeah.
grill in and grind out, like get out of here.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I similarly found out about this term, learned about it in October of last year. So it was really new for me. And it was like a moment of, I called my mom, I called a really close friend of mine, and I was like, did you know about this? Have you heard of this? And I was like, in 1973, Dana Raphael coined this term as an anthropologist, and how did I not know this? So I was very high in my emotions in terms of feeling seen and feeling validation. And to your point, it's like, oh, wait, now that you have this information, much like things that you learn about, what do you do with that information? How do you resource to? And I didn't have those answers. And what I loved, I went through a program. Nikki Mahone is the woman's program that I went through. It's a Matrescence online e-learning
I'm familiar with
space, into where it forces you to start to think about your own relationship to motherhood and how you viewed it growing up and how you viewed your own mother, how you viewed who you would be as a mother, and how you are as a mother today, and really doing a lot of reflection in terms of what did I expect, and what were the expectations that I put on myself? Why did I have those expectations? Were they expectations of others, or people that I value, or just a social expectation? Where did that come from? So it forced you to then start to explore and acknowledge, and I'm a verbal processor, whether it's verbally words on paper or talking through it. It was all living in my head, and I didn't know what to do with it. And so it was like coming out, and then I could think more clearly and speak more clearly, and then start to think about how I wanted to show up as a mom, and what I wanted to start to teach my children in their own relationship to self. So yeah, it was a journaling part that was very helpful. And then also thinking about how the seasons change, in just like, we go through winter sometimes, which can feel really cold and dry, and the plants die, and then they come back to life in the spring. And there is the space of time that you go through as a mom where it can feel like you're in a winter period after you have a child, because all estrogen and progesterone has now dropped out of your body that was heightened to the 10th degree when you were actually pregnant. And then breastfeeding, that's a whole nother subject around that, of what that does hormonally to your body. But I think being able to embrace the winter aspect of, all right, it might feel cold, but how can I make it feel cozy? What can I do to make it feel cozy? And so really just tuning into my body and trying to reconnect my body. And I'm talking about this from, my son is now, in October, he was 4.5. Like, this is way after the fact. And they've done research that says gray matter changes in your brain up to 6 years old. So up to when your child is 6. So for 6 years, your brain can still change. Not everybody's does, but it can. And so it gave grace to me, knowing that my brain was still restructuring, probably to back to pre-baby. Now not only is it pre-baby, but it's rewired differently. Like the neuroplasticity of my brain and its
Right.
ability to rewire itself in a completely different way is incredible. And knowing that um, when I learned about the word and kind of tuning into others and talking to others about it, which
Mm-hmm.
maybe you did too, and people, there's a
Mm-hmm.
group of my
Mm-hmm.
friends and people, no surprise that they're like, oh yeah, I knew about that. I was like, what? And then like 95% of my other friends are like,
Yeah.
no, what's that? I've never heard of that. So I think it isn't talked about,
Mm-hmm.
but now being able to talk about it more and have these conversations, I wanted to start in my own community a resource for people close. Um, are you familiar with like the blue
Mm-hmm.
zones and the centurion studies that they've done around the world?
Yes. 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 So like if
Yes.
you live in a certain
Yes.
place, you like live longer and like are
So
technically
part of
healthier.
that
Okay, yes.
study and a lot of studies that they've done around community is longevity is in relation to your community and your community that is literally in close proximity to
Mm-hmm.
where you live. And so I live in a neighborhood, it's called Easton
Mm-hmm.
Park, that we moved to for community and people that are in similar
Mm-hmm.
seasons of life and stages of life, to have our children grow up
Mm-hmm.
together. And I was still finding it hard to
Mm-hmm.
connect with other moms, even though I've made friends so easily my whole life. That's
Mm-hmm.
never been an issue for me. But navigating that
Mm-hmm.
space, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to
Mm-hmm.
force myself into here's what I've created, whoever wants to join. And I had 60
Mm.
people join in the Facebook group of a sect off of a new moms group, Facebook group that's like 500 moms, no joke, like huge community,
Wow.
and all talking about
Mm-hmm.
would you be interested in learning more about this? And what are the resources in our own community? Doulas, chiropractors, uh,
Right.
therapists, um,
Mm-hmm.
coaches, just financial resources. Who are the people that live in our own neighborhood? So I created an
Mm-hmm.
Excel sheet of like tabs of different resources
Oh
to
my
where
God,
people could
yes.
actually connect to the resources that they may not know they even need, but have it prepared and ready in case they
Mm-hmm.
do.
Oh, Courtney, that is like so incredible. And I'm assuming people have like found that
Yeah, I
incredibly
think
valuable.
learning, much like I felt when I had my first meeting, it was just like here is a space and a platform to just kind of talk about these things first because it's new information, and sometimes you just need to verbalize it
Right.
and marinate on
Right.
it and find out what it
Right.
means to you and how you view it. And um, I
Mm-hmm.
offered the program, the Nikki Mahone program, for others. I
Mm-hmm.
initially, we talked before we hit record today on my
Mm-hmm.
desire as a human is to, well, I can create that and I can create a business off of that. And I want to do all the
Yeah,
things. And just from a time
totally.
standpoint, which is so valuable, I don't always, my time is often warped into what I'm actually, the ability that I have to do something and desire are very different.
Okay, so I know that we wanted to talk about this, but can you talk about the nervous system around matrescence, around anything, around what's going on in our systems right now? I would love to go
Yes,
there.
I think I had talked a little bit about the anger aspect of like
Mm-hmm.
um, feeling this part of me that I had never met before in terms of very quick to be annoyed, very impatient, very um, not calm, overstimulated. And as I
Mm-hmm.
started to uncover what it was that was actually bothering me or triggering me or trying to understand that
Mm-hmm.
part of what was happening, and I felt like that was a long postpartum period. Like, I'm still regulating my nervous system based on the changes that occur when you have a child. So, our bodies, when we physiologically become a mother, obviously we have those hormonal changes, but we are very, our stimuli overall gets increased to what's happening around us. It's that hypervigilance that our bodies are wired to
Right.
be ready for a threat. And so that's running
Right.
in the background at all times on hyperspeed as a mother in a way that you didn't before. And so trying to understand what was
Right.
happening for me was, what's wrong with me? Like, I don't feel like Courtney, and or why am I so angry? Why is this little thing
Right.
bothering me? What is it about what's occurring? And obviously, when you talk to your OB, you get, well, tell me more. Is it anxiety? Is it? I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
no, anxious around being angry, but not anxiety around
Mm-hmm.
more of the scared or fearful or stressed in that aspect. And the
Mm-hmm.
more I did homework and really tapped into doing research on my own and having a couple of people that were familiar with
Mm-hmm.
somatic healing and somatic therapy around nervous system,
Yes.
but not specifically for motherhood. That to me still hadn't correlated, but it made sense for me to, all right, there's got to be some things that I can start doing to help stay calm. And I talked to a wellness coach that my company, we have access to at all times, which is great. Uh, Talked about a little
Yeah.
bit about cold therapy. Um, for me, that was just like a step into, okay, well, what else is there? What else should I be uncovering?
Mm-hmm.
And part of what I've done research around is breath work, which always seemed out here to me and not, it was
Okay.
like, yeah, breath work. That sounds fun. What does that really entail?
Right.
And until
Yeah.
you really try and practice it and really try and do more than just deep breathing, but you actually create a visual aspect around it, whether it's box breathing or paused breathing, or the visualization for me was very helpful. So you visualize whether it's a box that you're drawing or visualize your body being grounded on the earth. So whether or not you're laying down or sitting up, it is something you can do even with your kids around and feeling very overwhelmed and
Mm-hmm.
stressed. And as I started to do
Mm-hmm.
more of this, I also was helping uh, my son, who is very
Mm-hmm.
highly sensitive, and he had already
Mm-hmm.
learned a little bit about yoga at school, and so he was coming home and we would do it together. So
Mm-hmm.
he would actually sit down and meditate with me, and then I started to see him start to do it in environments where he felt overwhelmed, and he would walk away and actually sit and meditate and breathe. And so it was teaching him something really
Mm-hmm.
valuable, our coping mechanisms and our emotional regulation overall, whether you're 5 or a new mom or an older mom, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It's helpful and
Right.
beneficial for everyone. But it is something that I feel like that I have seen the most change in my nervous system to help regulate when I'm feeling overwhelmed and
Wow.
stressed. So breath work, even I talked about the dance aspect, but movement in general.
Yes, I love that.
So think about like when you were putting your child back to sleep and you're bouncing and you're swaying. That's actually something
Right.
for your
Right.
nervous system overall. So it's not just a baby aspect of mimicking what they felt in the womb, but it's also our bodies when we
Mm-hmm.
sway and when we bounce or move. It helps move out the emotions, the stimuli that we're holding in our bodies, and
Mm-hmm.
getting it out. So that's something that's really helpful. And then even mindfulness practice, and this word gets, I feel like, thrown around a lot of like, you just need to be more mindful.
Yeah.
Again, it's like, okay, well, what does that really
Right.
mean? What does that look like? There, there are ways that you can practice
Right.
this by listening in a moment of overstimulation, hearing the sounds around you. So whether or not you can sit or stand, you're listening for the whirring of the
Mm-hmm.
dryer or the sound of the dishwasher, water dripping. Obviously, maybe your child screaming. That's very,
Mm-hmm.
very loud. But in the
Right.
moment,
Right.
recognizing each individual sound helps you be more grounded in the present. Because
Mhm.
when you're overstimulated and you're
Wow.
feeling anxious and that anger starts to well within you, it is just
Mm-hmm.
literally energy that needs to come out. And you're projecting your thoughts either forward um, or backward and thinking about all the stuff you need to get done or you haven't done or why you're feeling the way you're feeling. But if you practice what's happening in the moment, it is something that I actually did in therapy too, in EMDR therapy, which is eye movement reprocessing
Right.
desensitization. And it's
Mm-hmm.
allowing you to be present in the moment and feel safe. So that's part of what a woman's body gets into the is there a threat? I'm feeling overwhelmed and overstimulated because there's all the stimuli happening, and I am recognizing some of them might be a threat just from how we were designed and built and made and created. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but the way that we can bring ourselves into the present and recognizing these are not threatful things that are happening, these are sounds and they're individual sounds, and bringing you back to that space. I actually bought little headphones, and I apologize. I cannot think of the brand or the name of them right now, but they're little ear loops that you put them in your ear, and it's so it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
block out all sounds. You can hear less sound incoming.
Mm-hmm.
So it does help with
Oh, cool.
the overstimulation of sound in itself. So yeah, those
Right.
are some things that are really helpful. Obviously, if you dive in deeper, there are practices and ways that you can help your vagus nerve and really feel very calm and aligned within your body. So that embodiment practice of your thoughts aren't over here and your body's not over here, but you're one and you feel grounded and centered.
Wow.
So those are all very woo-woo
Yeah.
sounding, but really
Okay.
helpful.
So helpful. And I think you talking about the nervous system in general, because I experienced that too, where, and I think mine was delayed. And it was delayed in a way that I was controlling a lot of
Yeah.
emotion, which I have my
Yeah.
whole life, right? Oh, I may be very angry, but I'm going to control my actions behind this and kind of move through it. So I was doing that a lot. And then as soon as I recognized, like, oh, I'm actually really mad, and that and when I'm mad, you're mad at your body being weird, you're
Yeah.
mad at your life
So many
changing,
things.
you're mad at, I'm mad that my husband didn't carry the baby and I did. Like, it's just the
Yes.
weird stuff that you're like, I'm so
Yeah.
mad right now. And that rage, I know that it's in the zeitgeist of
Yeah. The
talking
mom
about
rage
like
is a
mom
big
rage,
word.
but the mom rage, and then understanding that, hey, tie it to a nervous system versus tying it to a
Right.
place, to so something you could potentially control, or something that you need to be shamed
Yeah.
about, or something where you look at yourself and you say, I have never acted like this before
Right.
in my life. Like, what is wrong with me? And then you go down the shame spiral, and that doesn't help anybody. But if you were able just to, and I am going to paraphrase what you shared, recognize that is part of your nervous system. It's okay, it's normal, it's natural. And now, in order to help, I love your breath work, the visual aspect, the grounding and like pointing out sounds around you. And then I think you mentioned it, like the
Yeah.
cold therapy, or like where you like shock your
Like
system
literally
really
grabbing
quick.
ice,
I think those are all
holding
so
ice in your hand.
helpful.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yes, yes. But I think that is so real, like such true tools. And yeah, I think to drive home the point, like, hey, your nervous system is this certain way. It's natural because of what your body
Right.
is going through. Here's some tips to help you with that. It's not you with your mom
No.
rage. That
Right.
like doesn't exist. It is like you're in overdrive, your nervous system is in overdrive. Here are some things that like can help you out. And I think that message really needs to be put on blast because I'm overhearing about like
I
mom
know.
rage.
I know. It is sad that we don't know the reasons why it's happening, or we feel as a culture that it's just because moms are trying to do too much, which probably is a big part of it, yes. And it's also something
Yeah.
physiologically happening in your body at the same time. And so I
Right.
feel like not
Right.
knowing that gives a lot of gray, and people make assumptions to whatever way they want to go with it. And I think something else that is really helpful, if it's possible, from a partner aspect, from whether it's your spouse or a family member that's helping, if you're a single mom, whoever it is that's close to you, sharing those things with them from a physiological standpoint of something like, hey, I just learned this. This is
Yes.
something that I am going to start practicing. Do you want to do it together? Can we do it together? Or if you see me doing this, know that this is what's taking place so you can be aware and or help and support in any way possible. And honestly, it's good for the partner to do as well because there are physiological things happening for them
Totally.
too. Just from a there are studies behind what happens to dads after 6 months, after 1 year, to their actual
Right.
bodies. So there's changes that are taking place within them too, not the same, but it's beneficial again for all.
Oh my gosh. So much so. And to your point too, these are things that you can like do with your kids
Yes.
around. So if you're in the heat of the moment, go to the
Yes.
freezer, grab some ice. If you're in the heat of the moment, tell your kid, "Hey, do you hear the washer? Do you hear the rain on the roof? Do you
Yes.
hear the someone mowing their lawn outside?" Yeah.
And something else that I've started saying is, what is your body saying to you right now? I tell them, and if they're screaming and just have out of their mind, it doesn't always work. But I recognize when, as they've gotten older, they are saying it and saying, my body's saying, I'm so sad or I'm so angry. I'm going to be on my bed and I'm going to go pound my bed for a minute. And I was like, well, okay, you go do that, buddy, if that's what your body's telling you. And so recognizing that they're learning
Oh
coping
my gosh,
skills
cute.
and tools to help know that these are feelings and feelings don't have to be leaders of what you do, but it's a way to recognize this is how I feel in my body right now, and this is what I need to do for my body. And then I can actually come back and play or come back to whatever it is that we're doing together. So it's helpful. It's so great to see them do that on their own with unprompted because they either see it modeled or I've practiced it with them. So yeah, it's been a journey, and I wish I would have known more about it earlier on as well. And I felt like mine was maybe similar to you, delayed in the aspect I didn't recognize it as much
Yes.
as I did around age 2. It was like age 2, I was attesting it to like,
Yes.
oh, this is terrible twos, and it's me acting out on their terrible twos just from the environment standpoint. And maybe that's part of it, but I think it's deeper than that just because it is still occurring in your body, these physiological changes that can last up to 6 years. So, and it restarts every time you have a child too. So there's that too.
Right. Right. Yes. Yes. Because both of our kiddos were close together. That's that's exactly why I felt delayed. And then when little one came around, regardless of the temperament that he
Yeah.
presented, it took a second for me to be like, "Oh shoot, I am like
Yes.
here. I'm
Yes.
at the brink."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And being, I think a lot of moms don't know what it is they need. I know I didn't know what it is that I needed. And I feel like
Right.
my husband was willing to like, well, tell me what you need and I'll help you. Like, I'll support you. But I didn't know what it was. So it wasn't beneficial for either one of us to have that conversation. But me just tapping into my body and learning more about that, it was like, oh, this is what I need. And this is actually helping me know from a clarity standpoint, I can think more clearly now that my body's in line with my thoughts, is very helpful.
And during that time, you feel so disconnected from your body, or at least I
No,
did, I
we
guess
talked
I
about
would
that.
say.
Yes.
I would say I would feel
Super disconnected.
yes, because you're like, who is it? What happened? And it changed. And then kind of this like bounce back culture, whatever that means. And then it's all the things coming together to, and how helpful would it have been to be like, hey, like this is actually what's
Yes.
happening in your body. Of course you feel this way. It's totally normal. Let's get back to like your body and your mind coming
Yes.
back together, renewed and different from where you were
I feel like a
pre-kiddo.
lot of moms, I had a cesarean with both of mine, but a lot of moms who had more of a traumatic
Mm-hmm.
birth, it actually talks a lot about the trauma
Mm-hmm.
aspect lingering, and until you can help embody the practice of embodiment and aligning both your body and mind together helps rewire the trauma that occurred, that could have occurred. So that's one way to do that, but it's similar
Oh,
to when
sure.
I had trauma therapy. It's like, oh yeah, well that makes sense to um, why
Right.
these things are practical tools that are really helpful.
That's incredible. I mean, such good tools and such good tips. When you think about yourself pre kiddo, and now with all the knowledge and experience that you have, what kind of advice would you give yourself?
It's always easy to say, don't be so hard on yourself, and you're not going to know what you don't know because it's new to you. It's easy to say and also different to live out that. Um, but it is something that I feel like as my motherhood journey has progressed, I am a lot less hard on myself today than I was 5 years ago, 2 years ago, a year ago. I feel like as I'm maturing in my motherhood, that is something that I've really worked to not, whether it's the comparison game or whether it's my own internal intrinsic need to perfect and control. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think the biggest thing that I could tell myself would be probably the aligning your body to your mind, because how in the world can you think clearly when you are disconnected from your own body? How in the world can you feel like I'm not doing this right or I am doing this right, or how to even know one way or another if you aren't in your body truly and you are a being for another being for a while, but there are ways to come back to your body
Mm-hmm.
even in the midst of 3 weeks postpartum, a month postpartum, by doing those physiological changes. And so I would probably tell myself, be in tune with practicing ways that you can be in your own skin and really help align your
I
thoughts.
love that.
And then you can know, don't be so hard on yourself.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful. And yeah, I think that's really powerful and so necessary. And you're right. You don't know what you don't know. And I think that's part of the challenge that's
Yeah.
presented to you at that time, is because it is just all new. And I think a lot of us have a lot of preconceived notions into how that time is going to feel like
Mm-hmm.
for us. So I think there's also that kind of friction between the reality and what you may have hoped and
Yeah.
wished for. And so finding that, yes, you're potentially going through a storm, you're handcuffed and blindfolded on your way. But yeah, the kind of basics of like coming back into your body, aligning with yourself, listening to like those
Yeah.
internal cues,
And I
so
feel like
powerful.
celebrating the things that we often get reminded. it's going to go so fast. You'll wish for this time later. And while those times that we were told that they were true, they weren't very helpful in that moment. And I feel like
Right.
being in tune and knowing that you are connected in your body, you can enjoy and have more joy in those moments of small celebrations. Because I do look back in videos and in pictures and like, oh my gosh, we had so
Mm-hmm.
much fun. We had a lot of fun and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
throwing our hands up in the air and like, holy, I give up. I don't know what's happening, but I'm still going to have fun moments too. Um, and recognizing that I wish I could have appreciated them more because it would have helped me stimulate further into again, not being so
Mm-hmm.
hard on myself and being present with my husband, with the
Mm.
kids, with myself, especially with myself first of all. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Celebrating small wins in life in general has always been tough for me because I'm like, all right, on to the next. What else can I do better? What else can I achieve? What else can I
Right.
um,
You're
but
right.
I feel like
What's the
yes,
next challenge?
it
Let's go.
feels it feels
Mm-hmm.
really good to like, well, what does it mean to celebrate? And I have a jar, literally a celebrate small moments jar where I have to like write it down and then I can go back in and remember
Oh.
because I do so they're so fleeting a lot of times and so I don't always remember. But I having a physical aspect for you to do helps trigger the all right, this is a win. It's time for a celebration. And that's hard. I know that's really hard for a lot of moms to do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a good tip too to have. And I was talking to somebody the other day, and she is 48, and she was like, "Hey, I have this like melancholy feeling. Hey, I like did all this stuff and now I'm here, but then I look forward and you have at least another 40
Right. Yeah.
years, maybe
Yeah.
50, but
Yeah.
definitely 30 ahead." And I was telling her, I feel this too. It's like you're like, oh, wait a second. Like, these little tiny moments are really important. Or like to be present and fully feel a singing happy
Yeah.
birthday song is gonna move me.
Yeah.
Or like going on a walk with my kids and listening to them laugh. Like, all of those things become even more, I don't know,
Yes.
clearer. And so when you're saying that, I'm wondering like, okay, is it our maturity within our motherhood? Is it our us aging in a certain way? Or is it just, I don't know, this is how everybody feels at this stage of their lives. I'm not sure, but I thought that that was really interesting. I'd
Yeah.
love your
I
take
feel
on
like
that.
I'm often skewed from the algorithm of what the content that comes to me. I'm like, is this an accurate portrayal of the moms that are just out there living their lives and not researching and trying, everything's at the fingertips of what I look up and then the algorithm says this is what you need to
Yes.
see. So I don't know because I do very
Right.
much feel that way. It is exciting and different perspective. And I've seen a lot of the people that I follow, whether it's an influencer or friends or circles of groups of people I connect with in my own community, talk a lot about this in terms of pos- not toxic positivity, but the positive aspects of
Right.
being grateful. So much more grateful is the number one attribute to happiness, and the
Mm,
grateful moments that you just described about listening to a happy birthday song or hearing your child laugh and like being
hmm.
grateful for those moments allows you to be
Hmm.
open to things that maybe weren't as present or as available to you in the past of just like changing your perspective. I know, it's a Tony Robbins like number one and he's been around for
Hmm.
a long time to, the newer
Mm-hmm.
neurobiology conversations. I don't know if you listen to Andrew Huberman at all, but I listen a lot to him.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
all of these things around gratefulness is always the number one way to change our wiring with our brain. And I think, yeah, maybe it's maturing, maybe it's the journey of motherhood where you are more available and present now that you've learned some ways to help recognize those
Right.
moments and when they come. But I think that they can be available earlier on too. But I hope it's a
Yeah.
cultural thing that's shifting and changing to where this is a new way of life because, man, it feels so much better than the negative things that happen all around us all the time, too,
I
which are
know.
still going to happen. And we still have to
Yeah.
recognize, but in
Of
terms of
course.
how do I want my day to look and what way do I want to show up, and whether that's for myself or for others, for work, interacting. I think I talked about the domino effect is very powerful. And so if I can show up that way and someone else recognize that, and then the domino effect occurs, and hopefully it comes back around to me when I need it too.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think that is so critical, and especially at this point in time. Okay, two kind of random questions, but they've been on my
Yes.
mind. I need to ask you. Um, how do you feel about being a boy mom? And then, do you consider yourself an older mom? If you do, how do you feel
Good
about that
question.
too?
Yeah.
Just like
The boy
thoughts on
mom
it.
thing is funny. Whenever I'm around friends who have little girls, I have not only been a boy mom, but I was a boy mom before I was a boy mom with my sister's kids who were primarily boys. She had one
Right.
girl, but it was after I had went to college. And there's just a lot of boys in my family. And so being around friends that have little girls, I love it and I soak it all up. But at the same time, I hear
Hmm.
myself talking to them in the way that I talk to my boys. And I'm like, oh, wait, no, this requires a whole different kind of conversation. And it's good to be
Yeah.
reminded of that because I do feel like in my heart of hearts, the feminine aspect I love about me, and I want to help shower that even to
Hmm.
my boys. But being around boys all the time, sometimes you do forget about that side of you. And so I think it's good to
Yes.
have those reminders. And also, I love the physicality aspect of boyhood and how that is helpful in moving through your emotions and being able to like that is how boys relate to one another is through physical movement. And
It's so cute.
I think it's
Yeah.
helpful as a mom to even do it with them, and the bonding aspect of helping us bond in that way. They do that naturally with their father, but I think it's really beneficial for me to wrestle with them on the bed and like throw them up and being
Yeah.
able to play ball and run. And on Mother's Day, when my son wrote like who my mom is in school, it was all that. It was
Hmm.
like, my mom's the best runner and she beats me at running. She's so fast. My mom loves to run. Like, it was all these things about physical things that I do with him, but that's what he remembers. And
Oh,
he
yeah.
says snuggling and kissing and being close physically to, but he didn't say physically, but being close to my mom
Hmm.
is that the thing that makes him the most happy.
Hmm.
But I think that's just something I treasure so much about boys is truly um, the physical nature of boys and how much we discourage that as a
Yes.
culture as they get older. Um, but it still needs to happen.
Hmm.
It's so helpful for boys to um,
Hmm.
feel loved and seen and connected. So I love that's what I love about
Oh, it's
being a boy
so
mom
beautiful.
and my thoughts around it. And it's just funny.
And I love what you're saying because you're totally right. It is physically, please, I don't know any different, so I
Right.
can't
True.
necessarily
Same.
say. But what it feels like to me is this outrageous physical in
Everything.
everything. Everything
Everything.
is a physical thing. And it's hard to describe it. It's like you walk upstairs and it's like, no, you don't walk up them. You jump up them, or you skip them, or you
Yes.
race. Like, it's everything and anything is this wildly physical,
Yes.
kinetic experience. And I just love how you're talking about how you relate to them in that
And I
language.
love
And I
it.
think that's so
We were
beautiful.
recently in
So
Spain
cute.
and Amsterdam, and all of the signs for people, like our signs about like the crosswalk or anytime there's a
Hmm.
pedestrian sign
Hmm.
in the
Hmm.
United States, we're just walking. In Spain and
Hmm.
Amsterdam, both, I recognized, I was like, what is this? Everybody's running, like running. And so I pointed out, I was like, that's our life. We're just always running. Um, it was just a funny moment
So
of
cute.
realization of always physically go. And so even harder to slow
Hmm.
as a boy mom to be in that
Yes.
very thoughtful, mindful, slow moments that don't happen, that you have to create for yourself and for your children because they don't. You can't wait for those to happen.
Yeah.
And
Right.
if they are happening, it's usually because um, I notice, and my son recognizes this too, if he's on his iPad for a longer period of time than normal, he recognizes it and he'll take it off and
Hmm.
he's like, I've been on too long. I feel really tired. I feel zombie like. And I was like, yes, this is why it's not good for
Hmm.
you to stay on that long. It zaps you of your energy.
Right.
Energy you give, you know, energy goes where energy flows. And so that's a very true
Hmm.
testament for boys, for sure. And then as far as the older
Oh my
mom
God. So
aspect,
true.
yeah, I feel like obviously I
Yes.
had my first, I got pregnant at 37 and had at 38, had Logan at 38. And when you're, I don't, the gestation period, the geriatric pregnancy, they weren't calling it geriatric pregnancy, but it was still described that way. My brain
Yeah.
has shut down, and I have forgotten the term that they use now for geriatric pregnancy. It's now called older term moms, or um, I can't remember, but there's a new word that's less harmful psychologically.
Offensive. Yeah.
But
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, I think just the it depends on who your doctor is. And I didn't realize how great of a doctor I had so much. I had one doctor that was
Hmm.
terrible, and right off the bat, I was like, I can't come back. I can't continue to come here having a child. So I knew the first appointment
Hmm.
that was it. I went and searched and got
Hmm.
a recommendation, and I'm so grateful for my doctor because he's so amazing, and all of the nurse practitioners are incredible, and they just feed off of his energy and their energy, and like they're such a great team, and they make you feel so confident and you don't feel worried.
Hmm.
Whereas I have had other
Hmm.
moms, even currently, other friends that are going through pregnancy at that age or older, that are saying they leave the doctor and they're just so like riddled with anxiety and fear and like all the things that could go wrong based
Ugh.
on their interaction from the doctor's visit. And it's
Mm.
like if it's just so
Crazy.
procedural and robotic and you leave the human out of it,
Right.
no wonder they
Right.
feel like crap. Like, yeah, there is more tests that you have to do when you're older.
Exactly.
There is more
Hmm.
things that can go wrong and that are more critical to ensure
Hmm.
that they are going right. But if it's handled in a manner with care and love and tenderness and
Hmm.
calmness, then I just didn't feel that
Hmm.
worry like my I have seen a lot of my friends feel. But even now,
Hmm.
as a older mom, like I'm almost 45, which is wild. I'll be 45 next in a month almost. And my when
Mm.
I got that card of like my mom is 44, he got it right, like he wrote it down. I guess he had asked my husband, which I
Hmm.
was like,
Hmm.
and then in the next phrase, he's like, "That's so old," and like that's what he thinks. And yeah, you do at 5, of course. But I
Of
forget
course.
all the time my age. Like I am around moms that are so much
Hmm.
younger than me in my neighborhood, especially because it's a very young family neighborhood. And I
Hmm.
feel like I'm probably the I don't know, 3 percentile of age range for there are a
Yeah.
few, but very few that are my age. Most of them are much
Hmm.
like 10 years younger, 10, 15 years younger than me.
Hmm.
And I don't feel
Hmm.
it until we start talking about just interests and like where people are at in their life. And then I'm like
Yeah.
reminded, oh, I'm
Hmm.
I feel very young,
Oh
but we
yeah.
just relate on different levels
Yeah.
because we're in different seasons in
Yes.
terms of our age of like what we've gone through and what we've been through and, you know, pop
Hmm.
culture and what we relate to. Um, is very
Yes.
different. And so I do feel, just truth be told, some alienation. And maybe that's my own insecurity when I'm in these groups of like, you
Hmm.
know, you start talking about things that interest you. And our conversation that we're having
Hmm.
right now is my interest. And I start talking about these things. So I start sharing
Yeah.
all these things and just the lightness of what things are discussed. I feel like from mothers that are younger, I want to embody that more, just like the fun elements that I'm
Hmm.
like, oh yeah, that's what it felt
Hmm.
like at 30, or just remembering
Hmm.
that age and
Hmm.
how I looked at my lens of life. And I
Hmm.
think that there are things that they can learn from me and things that I can learn from them. But I try not to give too much weight in it, to let it bother
Hmm.
me enough
I love
to
that.
feel differently about
Mm-mm.
who I am.
Totally. Yeah. I had one at 38, one at 39. So whatever. But what I am discovering more is the more I'm like kind of so thankful for the zest and excitement around the youthfulness of
Yeah,
the babies to be like, oh, well, if you're going to be 20, I'm going to be
yeah,
60 something. So, okay, let's like make sure we're
yeah.
active, make sure it's almost like this like, kind of like
It
refresher
does
back
force you,
into your
yes,
life.
to want
It
to take care
does
of yourself even more. So for that reason, and I feel like very
much more.
blessed to have that. And not that a mom, who is 40 and
Hmm.
might have a 20-year-old, um, that they
Right.
wouldn't feel that way. Maybe it's a different season for them of like, oh, I can take care of myself now because my child's not at home and they're going through, which is also a
Hmm.
matrescence aspect
Hmm.
too. Like when they leave the nest and like what your body physiologically does and
Right.
things that happen to you physically. It was really cool to have a boss. My boss currently, she was going through that like
Hmm.
season at the same time I was
Oh,
discovering
yeah.
all of this matrescence aspect of how it was affecting me. So we were walking
Hmm.
through it together for very different reasons. And she is in the season of like taking care of her body more than ever because she has the most time she's had for
Hmm.
herself more than ever. Like, so,
Yeah.
there's two
Hmm.
two two different ways to approach that. But I am grateful to think, because I think that exact same thing. Like when I'm 60, you'll be 20, and I want to ensure that I'm here as long as possible for you to feel you can still run around with me and we can still have the physical side
Totally.
of life.
You can
Yeah,
still
I
beat
still
him.
beat him in a race.
Yeah.
He's like, Mommy, I don't think I'm ever going to beat you. I was like, you probably will one day, bud. But it feels really good too for him to think that, about me.
Oh my
But yeah,
God.
I
So
can
cute.
very much feel like we could relate so much on that level because, um, yeah, there's naturally things that you think about from your age that happen and you start to recognize, and things become very clear to you at certain ages in your life. Women in particularly, when they turn 40, 43, and 47, like those are actual age progressions of like very pivotal time for a woman, for several different reasons. We could have a whole nother
Mhm.
conversation about that. But you do start to kind of really look at life um, through very different lens. Whereas in your 30s, you don't have as much uh, biologically, like women in general, don't have those pivotal ages like they do in their 40s. And I think a lot of women
Mhm.
talk about that is very much discussed, I feel like, of like a woman in her 40s and what that
Mhm.
means and what takes place.
Mhm.
And hopefully it's more, more positive. I feel like it is, I think.
I feel like it is totally. And in fact, I think there's feeling like you're alone in the journey of being an older mom. What has happened is I feel like I keep either attracting or I
Yeah.
keep finding people all over the place that are doing like the
Yes.
similar path. So I'm like, oh, okay, well maybe it's
Yeah.
not as rare. And then yes, this idea of seeking out that community that's around that
Yeah.
same thing is
I was going to
awesome.
ask you, do you feel like, because you were saying you don't know either way because you had kids at the age that you did, and me too.
Hmm.
I think about this of like, is there a
Hmm.
best age? Would it have been better to have earlier on
Hmm.
from a biology standpoint? Maybe. Would it have been
Right.
different approach to motherhood altogether? Yeah, 100%. Being
Definitely.
able to
Yep.
watch other friends or family member for me was very helpful, and why I waited
Hmm.
so long to to I feel like was
Right.
was beneficial. And I got to live an entire adult life for, you know, 20 years
Yes.
before I had kids, which again
Yeah.
could be hard because you're adjusting to a whole new way of
Hmm.
life and you're like, I lived a long time on my
Right.
own and only had to take care of myself for a really long time. And then it's even more shocking when you
Yes.
bring another life into the equation. I do feel like that is more of a challenge sometimes too. Because earlier you're like, I
Okay.
only lived this life, but then you have the, I wish I had more life to live. And then you get in that resentful aspect. So it's like they both have
Right.
their drawbacks and
Yes.
positive things.
Yes. They both have their drawbacks and positive things. Yeah. I talked to somebody the other day and she was like, I was a young mom. I wanted to be a young mom. I
Yeah.
chose that path, which I get. I get that. But I thought it was interesting because I was like, oh, interesting that journey for that person was thoughtful and
Yeah.
saying like, oh, I want this for myself. Where I feel like I was definitely
Yeah.
avoiding this moment for as long as possible because I just didn't feel like my life was ready or I
Yeah.
was ready. And I still
Never
don't
ready.
think, and I think the phrase of like, there's
Yeah.
no good time, yes, to have a kid is
Really true.
actually true because it's like,
Yeah.
what do you do? And from my experience and what I've shared, and this is my hypothesis, is I feel like if you are and you have your kids at the time that I did in my life with having 20
Right.
plus years of independent living, I had a
Yeah.
whole life that I am
Yeah.
proud of and loved and wouldn't change. But you get to this moment that
Yeah.
explodes you. My hypothesis is it's really hard to adjust at that point. But who knows? And I had somebody ask me with good intent, of course, but they were like, oh my gosh, your life started when you had your
Oh.
kids. And I was like, I kind of hate that comment because what was
I
I
know.
doing for 40 years before this point? I was having a great time, living a
Right.
great life, doing wonderful things in the world. And yes, is this amazing? Absolutely. But I don't think it needs to take
No.
away the validity of my life pre
No. And that's not
motherhood.
everybody's
So I think
desire
that is a very
to
interesting
be a
moment too.
mom. I mean, I have friends
Exactly.
um, that chose not just a weren't able to conceive, but chose to not ever conceive and do not ever want
Yes.
to conceive.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
admire them for that journey and their contribution
Mm-hmm.
to the world and to each other. And they have two of those individuals I'm very close friends with currently, and I feel like I love to connect with them and kind of just have such a different perspective of life again, because you do get very much in the bubble of motherhood and
Mm-hmm.
mothers and the world around you.
Yes.
You're like, wait
Yes.
a minute. Oh, yeah. Wait,
Yes.
there's a whole nother world that I lived in. The way I perceived the
Yes.
world was very different. And I don't feel like it's wrong or
Yes.
right. I just feel like it's different and it
Mm-hmm.
gives you perspective to be able to relate to those that don't have kids too.
I think that's all important. And I think that one of the things that has been interesting about talking about this on this podcast is the common thread of everyone. And I'm hoping I can somehow figure out a way to present that, because every conversation is so special and unique, and so many good nuggets and just so much goodness and things that I wish like everyone could
Yeah.
hear, or that we could all talk about all the time, because the thread that is there is like this pattern of where you notice like a hardship, you identify with this ridiculous
Mm-hmm.
shame, you go through this like self inflicted
Mm-hmm.
punishment that should like never happen, and then you come out and it's like this warrior goddess
Mm-hmm.
energy. And I want to capture that, because that is, I think, the point of it all, is just so many unique stories, so many unique decisions and journeys and scenarios. But those
Yeah.
common things, that is more common than the
No,
differences.
so true. I love that you're sharing this, and I feel like at the same time, and I think one person you had on your podcast maybe talked about this a little bit. So I'll reiterate it too, because I think it's
Mm-hmm.
important in terms of like everything that you share with other mothers isn't always just the here's how to lessen the hardships of what you're going to experience in motherhood,
Mm-hmm.
or even like, hey, let's celebrate the
Mm-hmm.
amazing things that happen and ensure that you acknowledge like
Mm-hmm.
how amazing motherhood is at the same time. But the hardship aspect isn't just about eliminating all the hardships and making you feel like, okay, well, if I would have known this, then I wouldn't have, experienced it this way. Or if I wouldn't have, I think the
Mm-hmm.
resiliency that a lot of mothers have is
Mm-hmm.
because there is a way that you fight through that and how you walk through that journey. And the
Yeah.
fire that you do experience is shaping you and designing you into a more compassionate, empathetic, loving individual. And part of the mothers
Mm-hmm.
that we see around us, you want to embrace and you want to like, hey, this is so helpful. And here's all the tools. And I know I do that. And I also at the same time I have to like pull away from like sharing everything like, oh my gosh, I just learned this or I learned that. I learned
Mm-hmm.
this. It is allowing each
Mm-hmm.
journey to be their own, unique, but being in a community at the same time. So I love that you are creating this community and being able to find that common thread and relate to one another because of what we've experienced. But I think there is some way that we can also shed light on the hardship. While it is hard, it is ultimately rewarding because of it. Like it is so much, you're so
Mm-hmm.
much more grateful because of it. And if you took
Mm-hmm.
all that hardship away, I
Yeah.
don't think that I would be as empathetic and as compassionate and as passionate
Mm-hmm.
about motherhood in general, personally.
Yeah. I know. I know. I mean, I think that's right. I think that's why I am constantly surprised that isn't
Yeah.
shared. among friends or family even. You know, I just, those people that have the front seat to you
Mm-hmm.
mothering, why isn't that talked about? Like, that's what, like, kind of kills me a little bit. Or why isn't it given space to express the immense, insane journey that you
Yeah.
just went through? And you're on the other side. And yeah, it was like, why isn't this celebrated? Why isn't that just
Yeah.
like some high fives? We throw
Yeah.
a party. It's like, you just did the
Yeah.
most. Like, you did. Cheers to you. Let's have a freaking wedding style celebration over this because
A rock
you
star. Yeah.
are
It
amazing.
is true. Not just on Mother's Day,
Yeah.
but other days of the year as well.
Oh God. Yeah. Mother's Day is a given. Every day is
Right.
Mother's Day. Okay.
For
So
sure. For sure.
yes.
I think one thing I was thinking
So
about
true.
when I was like, okay, what else do I have to discuss? And one thing that maybe can be like a drop in the leaving room for the next conversation we have, because I'm sure we'll talk
Of
again,
course. Yes.
is I
Oh.
think for me, I know you had a little bit of time um, with your husband prior to having kids. I did not. And I feel like we're like learning about each other and we're coming into a new um, our own relationship together is so much more connected and powerful, and how we are approaching parenthood together and the way that we're talking about it and communicating it is
Mhm.
so different than the survival mode, which you kind of again have to go through. But at the same time, we didn't have
Mhm.
a connection for very long prior to having kids and really knowing our we knew our hearts, but we didn't know our entire beings of each other. And we're like really,
Yeah.
I mean, this is our 8 year anniversary this year. And yeah, it's exciting. And I think that again, the focus around children is culturally the thing that gets talked about first. And I hope that you
Mhm.
are,
Right.
shaping it around mothers personally. Let's talk about that first, and then we can talk about the kids. But again,
Mhm.
and I think going into the partnership aspect of like um, being able to
Mhm.
connect and feel seen and that you're enough and that you're working together and the teamwork and all of the things that take place that shape our day. I think the partnership aspect in a marriage and when kids are involved, it's so important to keep on the forefront of ways to create intimacy when there, is no time for it, or when there isn't, you aren't able to intentionally go out on a date for whatever reason. We don't have family, so it's always with a babysitter, and we pay for a babysitter, and we know that that's important,
Right.
but it also is costly. And so just all of these things that I feel like
Yep.
don't always get discussed.
I can seriously go off on that because, and dude, so amongst Dimitri and I, we talk
Yeah.
about it all the time. And we just went away like
Yeah.
2 nights ago to celebrate our
Oh, to St.
anniversary.
Pete. Yes, I did see
And
that.
6 years yeah, yeah, so fun. 6 years
Yeah.
married, but 13 together. And we met a new version of both of ourselves the
Yeah.
day that our
No,
baby
for
came.
sure.
I'm
Yes.
telling you.
100%.
Like, what we thought each other would be
Yeah.
was not the case. And I think that can play so hard into what that postpartum experience was like. And that still is a big aspect that we talk about
Yeah.
all the time. Because that, again, such a shocker.
And how sad for people who don't continue to try to get to know their partner, because hello, you're changing, hopefully, and growing and
Yes.
evolving, and you're not the same person today.
Yes.
So why would you expect
Yes.
your partner to be the same person? They're
Yes.
not. And where are they today? And really checking
Yes.
in, intentionally checking in with each other in very seemingly small ways that are so significant into how you show up as parents for your children. And obviously, because you're showing up for each other differently. And I
Right.
think this
Right.
past year for Ben and I have been ultimately like, let's strip everything away. We are going to a new therapist, which has been a big part of it. And we love therapy. Like, we'll always be in therapy, not because we're having a million problems,
Mm.
but because it's such a great way to think about one another and really bring us back to each other. And so I feel
Yes.
like this past year with this new therapist, who is phenomenal, has really allowed us to strip away all the ways that we think of each other and really reimagine our relationship in a whole new way. And it's amazing and
Wow.
wonderful. And not that I regret, like, oh, I wish I would have talked to him sooner. This is the journey that took place. And I think it's great that we are
Right.
able to kind of continually get to know one another. Yeah. And I hope that still happens at
Yeah.
20 years,
Because
at 30
literally,
years, like always.
same. Same. And like, I hope it does. I
Yeah.
will fight for it to do that.
Because it's better
I
today than it
know.
was when we first met. And in all the ways, like
Yeah.
that, I can only hope that obviously we're going to have seasons of things that we go through. But I also am encouraged to know, like, wow, it can be even better. It gets better and better for different reasons. And so thank you. And I can't wait to talk to you soon.
Yes. Yes. Sounds good, girl. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks for listening to It's a Circus. If today's episode made you feel a little less alone, share it with a friend who might need it too. We are building something amazing at the Turner Brothers Circus, an entire space designed for parents to find connection, laughter, and support. I'd love for you to be a part of it. Remember, you're doing better than you think. Stay grounded, stay real, and embrace that beautiful mess. And as always, the show must go on. Until next time.